Hello, I'm Josie Tipler and I'm going to do a demonstration today of painting a sky and a sea using acrylic paints. I'm working on a piece of acrylic paper. I'm not usually that keen on working on the paper. I prefer to work on a stretched canvas, but we're in lockdown, I can't get out and get that, so I'm going to use what I've got. I've primed it already using just a gesso primer. Not necessary apparently because they're already primed, but I always like to prime whatever surface I'm going to work on, even if it's paper, card, canvas. I prime it with the same primer every time, so I know exactly how my paints are going to react on that surface. They're always going to react the same. So I'm going to start off not doing any drawing, going to go straight in with a brush and paint. And these are the selection of paints I've got here. These show all of my favourite colours. That is my tea there. So I use a variety of different makes of acrylic, and I have a favourite selection of colours, particularly the orange and purple, my favourites, and those are going to feature in this, even though from the photograph on the board here you can see that it's mainly yellow and blue, the image, but I'm going to accentuate the colours a bit. So I'm going to start off using my favourite of all colours. In fact, this top tip here, always have a pair of nutcrackers to hand to help with any awkward lids of your paint tubes. So yeah, this is one of my favourite colours I use a lot. It's phthalo blue, I don't know how you pronounce it, P-H-T-H-A-L-O, phthalo blue red shade. And it's a really nice mixing blue, and it's a lovely intense colour. So I'm going to use that just to do my mapping out to start with. Tiniest bit of water on the brush, just to make it workable. I don't want to get too much water in there at the moment. I don't want to make it runny. That sort of consistency, just so I can draw onto the board with it. This, the format of the paper is not the same as the painting, so I'm going to change the layout slightly. Just put my horizon line in. That should be approximately level. And just map out a little bit of the shape of the horizon there. These are some boats. This is actually a photograph taken in Norfolk many years ago. I think my dad took this photo. So these are boats on the North Norfolk coast, I believe. I'll come back and tidy this lot up, but this is just mapping out where some of these shapes are. That's actually a square bottomed boat there. It's another boat. Now the good thing for me about acrylics is that they dry very quickly, especially in sunny weather like it is today. So I can get these basic shapes in and then get all of the background colours over the top, and I'll still be able to see all these shapes. Now, one of the lovely things about this picture is this little bright area of sunlight that comes down in this area. So I want to get the dark areas around that. Just mark those in, remind myself where they're going to be, and those are a reflection of the clouds up above. So there's a lovely bright area of sky. I'm going to make that quite large here and have some of the clouds in this sort of area. So that's the bottom of the clouds, and that's the shape of that cloud. And then there's another cloud above here which has got these beautiful rays of the sun across it. Another lovely shaped cloud above that. And it's leaving some nice bright blue sky over this side. and everything above that is dark. So I want this lovely dark area up here to be contrasting with the bright here and the little bright ping of light down the bottom. So now I can go into some of the actual bright colours in here. I'll do some of the lighter ones first. I have 2 bottles of water on the table, one for washing the brushes and one for clean water, just to use a little bit. But I tend to use all of my paints as tube consistency, so that means it's just as it comes out of the tube. I try not to add too much paint. So I say be stingy with your water and generous with your paint. That way you can do a lot of blending with your paints and get some nice smooth blends. If you add too much water, then you lose that blendability. You end up with streaks. You'll see as I go along. So I'm starting with some white acrylic paint. This is titanium white, and I'm going to use a little bit of cadmium yellow mixed with the titanium white.
Actually, that is a point, isn't it? Because I think cadmium yellow is
Poisonous.
Isn't
Yes.
it? Proper cadmium yellow.
Any of the cadmium colours are poisonous.
So don't get them near your tea.
No, exactly. And I've got a little bit of yellow ochre that I'm using here as well. Although it's called yellow ochre, it's not yellow, it's more of a brown, like a beige colour. But again, it's quite and it's a very good one for this sort of sky. And because I love it so much, I'm going to use the cadmium orange. And as Jim just said, cadmium is a poison. So you'll find some of these. Yeah, the one I got in America, this actually has a warning on it. It's a carcinogenic, apparently. So you do not want to lick your brushes. You do not want to use this as a spray.
You don't want to get it in your tea.
You don't want to get it in your tea. I'll just show you the difference actually between these 2 cadmiums. Cadmium orange and cadmium orange. One's golden, artist colour. One is Daleroni Kryler. Same colour, but you can actually probably see here the difference, and that's in just the amount of pigment in the paint. This is a lot more pigment and a lot more buttery, the texture of it. So I'll use a little bit of this. But you pay for the difference. Right, I'm going to swap brushes now. Move to my favourite brush. Just a wide flat. That's an inch flat brush I'm using now. And I'm going to put in this area of yellow. This blue has dried now, so I can go over the top of that, and that's okay. So just enough water to wet the brush, and start by mixing a nice bright yellow for this middle area. And so no water in this at all, just enough to dampen the brush. So I'm not using a completely dry brush. Oh, quick rescue needed. I ended up with blue paint. Right, wash it off. So the blue was on my board, on my palette here. Just picked a bit up on my brush. So let's start that again. Mix over here. So this is that nice bright yellow in the middle. Got a little lump there, you can lift that out. And this bright yellow with a bit more of the white actually continues down here in the reflection. And that's that lovely little bright area of that zing of sunlight in the middle there. So fill that bit in. I'm going to add a little bit more white into this area. where the sun is at its brightest. And there's a bit more of that colour above this cloud here. That might as well put some of that. That's going to be at the bottom of this cloud. Put some of that in. Okay. So while this is still wet, just get a bit more of the lighter yellow to the sides there. Mix up a bit more with the little bit of cadmium orange at the side here. Make that peachy colour. Like I said, I'm just accentuating the colours because I really love using the orange. Mixing that in. And again, because it's reflected in the water, I'll do some more down here. And a little bit of the yellow ochre for this warmer beigey colour at the sides here. We're just beginning to lose sight of the sun at the edges. Just had to add a little bit more water because this is drying very quickly on my paper. In fact, another tip, use a bottle of water, a little spray bottle, and you can just lightly spray. I'm just going to move the picture. Lightly spray what you're working on. You don't want too much on there because again you don't want lots of water mixed with your paint. There you go, that's just made it a little bit more blendable. Keep it damp enough to work on without adding water to it. Now I'm going to add a little bit more orange here. Whoa, that's a bit too much orange. Right. Oh, actually that's quite nice. Who says that's too much orange? Right, let's go the whole hog and have a proper sunsetty, streaky bit in there. That's nice. And again, the reflection underneath that in the water is going to be that orangey colour. And some of the darker tone down here using the yellow ochre. And a lot of this is actually darker blue here, but I want to get some of this behind it so I can do a dry brush technique for that blue over the top, which I will show you in a while. Add a little bit more of the yellow ochre and yellow. Okay, a rich sort of golden colour now down here. You can probably see this, the yellow ochre is actually fairly transparent, where I've used less of the white. The white is making it opaque. I'll try and thin that down a bit, it's got a bit thick. It's getting a bit darker as it gets to the bottom of the page. A little bit more of the yellowy colour in here. Okay, so that's all the golden area in the sky and the water at the moment. I'm going to leave that just to dry for a bit, then I'm going to come back and start working on the blue. And while I leave it, I will show you a trick for not wasting too much of your paint. If, like me, you're a little bit too generous when you pour paint out into your palette, if you need to go away and leave it, a quick squirt with the spray, not too much, just enough to keep it damp, and then a damp tissue or a J-cloth or something similar over the top. If you've got a folding palette, just fold it up like that. If not, a bit of just a sheet of damp something over the top. That will stop it drying out too much if you go away and leave it just for a bit. Won't last too long, so an hour tops, that should be alright. Okay,